Week at number 5 in our series on God's Mission, My Mission this week, and this one's entitled Excuses to Avoid Mission. And one excuse here is it is so freezing cold, and if I leave my hands exposed to this kind of temperature for more than a few minutes, I'm going to really truly get frostbite. So very quickly going through some of the material and particularly concentrating on the story of Jonah, that rather reluctant evangelist to the Ninevites. You remember, he really did not want to go for a number of different reasons. First of all, the Ninevites were the enemy, and what would everybody say about him going to these people who were truly barbaric? The Assyrians had a reputation to be one of the worst nations in terms of the way they treated people, especially the ones they conquered. So you can understand his reluctance. As Martin Luther said, not only the ship but the whole world becomes too small for Jonah, in the sense that he tries to get away and get on a ship and flee to Tarshish, right at the other end of the Mediterranean, we believe. He just can't get away from God because God wants him to do this. This is his objective. This is his calling to go and do it. And when he does go and he does witness, he eventually does, of course, after spending some while in the belly of this great fish. He goes and he does that, and then what? And here's another excuse that Jonah gives, because he's so concerned about his own reputation as a prophet that he can't see that God is the one who he should be representing. When the destruction that he has prophesied does not come about, what does he say? Go back and read that, especially there at the last chapter of Jonah, where Jonah says, I would rather be dead because you've let me down, God. You didn't destroy Nineveh as you promised, and this is the reason I didn't want to do it. Here's his excuse: I knew you were a kind, loving God, and that's why I didn't want to go, because I knew that you didn't really mean it. That's, I think, what we can read into it, that is what he's saying. You really didn't mean for me to do this, in the sense that you weren't about to destroy Nineveh, and even if you did, you changed your mind when the Ninevites repented, and really I just am so angry with you. And God says, have you got a right to be angry with me? And God Jonah says, yes, I do. It's a very petulant kind of response, isn't it? Where he's saying to God, it would have been better to destroy the whole of Nineveh than for me to be let down in this way. I mean, it's, what could you say? It's a degree of not only petulance, but prophetic arrogance, I almost want to say, that my reputation is worth more than the lives of all these people here in Nineveh. Amazing. It's almost the anti-prophet here. You have others, people like Obadiah, Micah, that Jonah is sandwiched in between, and all the other, what we call minor prophets, who had their role to play, and then the major ones, people like Isaiah and Jeremiah. They did what they were supposed to do. Jonah doesn't, and he's a very reluctant one. The person who comes out best in the whole story, of course, is God. And I often wonder why Jonah even spoke about it when he came home. But that gives me some kind of hope, because the fact that it's there in the Bible at all indicates to me that Jonah either wrote it down himself or told somebody about it so that it could be included. And maybe Jonah, when he got back home and after he told everybody what happened, and they said, why did you go in the first place, and all the rest, maybe he understood a little bit more about God's graciousness and his forgiveness, and the fact that he loves even these poor people in Nineveh who, as it says at the very end of the book, don't know their right hand from their left. In other words, they don't know good from evil. And the fact that he had a role to play in, at least for a while, helping these Ninevites to change their mind and to come to know a little bit more about God. We don't know what he taught them after that. We don't know much about what The story continues. These are questions for the kingdom, as I like to say. But ultimately, it's there to encourage us not to make excuses for mission, but to go ahead and follow what God wants us to do. May we remember to